Hello everyone. Yesterday we understood what is framework and what are the different types of framework, why we should create a framework. Now let's get started and understand how to create frameworks. So what are the different phases we come across in this process? First phase is initial setup, which is the most difficult phase. That's why mostly in interviews you're going to get this question, have you created framework from scratch? Because creating framework from the scratch is the more tricky part. Lots of designing and planning is involved in this phase. So initial setup, and then second thing you will be executing. This is the second phase, execution. And last phase is maintenance or management. Management of code or maintenance of code. So these are the three phases which we're going to follow if we are creating a framework. We're going to learn how to create framework from scratch. So we'll learn initial setup first. In initial setup, first thing you need to create it, you will be creating a Maven project. Now, what is Maven? What is Maven project? So let's understand that. Maven is build automation tool used primarily for Java projects. Maven helps the developer to create a Java-based project more easily. You might have created Java project till now, right? Whenever we want to create any project, we used to choose Java project as an option. Now, instead of choosing Java project, you can choose Maven project also. What is the benefit of Maven project? Accessibility of new features created or added in Maven can be easily added in the project in Maven configuration. It increases the performance of project and building process. So guys, let's understand what is the meaning of this. Whenever you're creating any project, let's just talk about this Java project. When you create Java project and you want to embed or configure Selenium WebDriver in it, what are the steps you follow? First step you follow is we download Selenium WebDriver jar files, right, on local system, on your computer, right? Local system. So this is my first step. If I want Selenium to be configured with my project, first thing I'm going to do is I will be downloading Selenium WebDriver jar files on my local system. Second thing I will be doing is I will import these jar files in my project, right? So in my project libraries, I will be importing all the jar files which I've downloaded. Now I'm just talking about Selenium WebDriver. But in my framework, I require lots of external jar files. If I'll keep on downloading and importing it in my project, it's going to take a lot of time. It's not easy to manage, and dependency going to be on your local system only, because these files are on your local system. Whenever you're talking to Java project, it's actually going to your local system, looking for these files, and then you're able to perform actions, whatever you want to perform. First of all, dependency on local system is there. Second, lots of hard disk is being wasted because I'm downloading all the time on my local system and then I'm importing it, right? As I've told you, in frameworks, you might require lots of external jar files. You can't do this process again and again. Now, Maven says, I'm build automation tool used primarily for Java projects. That means if you want to make any Java project, instead of choosing option as Java, choose option as Maven. Now, how it's going to help us? So let's understand this structure. Whenever you create any Maven project on your local system, actually you are creating a local repository, which is taking all external jar files from Maven remote repository. So guys, there is a remote repository on the cloud, on the server, there is a remote repository in which all the external jar files are there. Selenium WebDriver, TestNG, Apache POI, whatever you require for your framework, all the external jars are stored here. It's a storage for all the external jar files. If you want to use these external jar files, you have to just call them from remote repository to your local repository. You need not to download it. You need not to store it in your local system. You need not to configure it in your project either. You will be just creating a Maven project, one local repository will be created, and then you can ask for any external jar files from Maven remote repository. Now, how I will be calling, how I will be specifying that which jar files I need and which jar files I don't require, because there will be lakhs of jar files on this remote repository. Whichsoever jar files you need, you can specify it in a file called pom.xml. This file will automatically get created whenever you will make Maven project. And in pom.xml, you can specify the jar files you need. How I can specify the jar files, that we will be understanding when we will use it. But remember one terminology called dependencies. So in my pom.xml, I will be specifying which jar files I require in the form of dependencies. If I want to speak with you, I will be using a common language that you can understand and I can understand. Same way, local repository gonna speak in the language which Maven remote repository understands. And that language is in the form of specifying the dependencies. So this is the benefit of using Maven project. Not only this, that you can directly access the remote repository. There is other advantage of Maven also is there. That is that you can use command line interface. In Java project, we have dependency. I have to create Eclipse IDE project and then I can use it, right? But Maven project, you can even access it from command prompt. Command line interface is there. So these are some benefits of Maven project. That's why it is very important that whenever you are making a framework, instead of choosing Java project, we must choose Maven project. Let's get started and create a Maven project. Now we will be creating a Maven project. Guys, in order to create Maven project, procedure is same the way you were creating Java project. Click on file, go to new and look at this. Here you get Java project and there might be possibility you see Maven project also here. So in my case, Maven is not visible in this panel. I'll click on project in that case and see here. You will see all type of projects over here. I'm going to choose Maven. Double click on it. Choose Maven project here. Click on next. Here we will be checking on create simple project. Again, we're going to click on next. We will be filling up this information over here. Group ID means any name under which you want to create this project. So I will be creating it under name called HR. Artifact ID, under this HR, this ID will be created. So I will be giving HR management. This name will appear over here. So this is my, you can say my project name, which will appear in this panel of Project Explorer. Here you can give any name. So HR management project. Look at this, guys. This thing artifact ID cannot contain spaces. So I'm just going to eliminate the space and click on finish over here. So see, HR management, this project got created. If you see this icon over here, it is MJ. That means Maven and Java. If you look at my other project, it is just J. That means Java project. This is also Java project. But these projects here are MJ project. That means it is Maven and Java projects. Now, how this Maven project is different from Java project, we already discussed theoretical part of it. Now, let's understand practically how it is different. If you expand this, you will see over here, there is one file called pom.xml. So guys, this pom.xml file is something which will be communicating with your remote repository. So any external jar which you want to configure in your project, you will be writing it over here. And this code will talk to remote repository and fetch all the jar files in the local repository. Now you need not to download anything on your local system. You need not to configure manually with your Java project. Everything will be done automatically. That is why it is the best choice for any automation developers in order to create a framework. Here, after name, you will create one tag. Guys, this is how XML work. You write this thing. This is like tags over here. And you can choose this code here, dependencies. Under this dependency, see here, inside it. So when you see tags like this, in front of them, there is no /, then that means it is an opening tag. If you see / in front of the tag name, then that means it is closing tag. You can consider it like open bracket and closing the brackets. If you write something, you will be writing in between this. Now, whichever jar files you want to use in your Maven project, you will be writing code of that jar files over here. How we do it? Let's understand this. So you will open your browser and type Maven repository. Now I'm trying to open repository, remote repository, which is there on the server. So I'll open that. It is not in my local system. It is on the server. And I'm going to open this. So guys, this Maven repository will have all the dependencies, all the jar files, which you can use for a project. Now it is eliminating your many things. It's going to reduce code dependency. You will not be dependent on your local system for any project transportation. Let's say I want to send this project from my system to some other system. We are not having anything on our local system. We are taking it from the remote repository and putting it in a local repository with the help of pom.xml file. So here I want to have Selenium WebDriver now. So in my Maven project, first step is to add Selenium jar files. How we do it? You will be simply writing Selenium WebDriver. Enter this. If you click on the Selenium Java here, look at this. You get all versions here. We will be choosing 3.141.59 because rest of the versions are either alpha or beta. So we'll choose the stable version. So whenever you're working on it, at that time, whichever version you're finding it as stable, not alpha or beta, whichever recent version you find as stable, you can click on that. So this code will be used when that local repository wants to speak with the remote repository over the internet or over the server, then they will be using this code. Now, this code is saying that I will be using Selenium from this group, Selenium Java. This is the version I'm using. So this is the code. I'm going to copy this and I will be pasting it inside the dependencies tag. So here you can paste it. Once you will paste it and save this, so Control S, look at this side of your project. Here you have HRM management, you have some folders created over here. But if you see here, it is just JRE system libraries. That means you can see Java libraries. There is no Selenium, nothing is imported inside it. So nothing got configured. So what we need to do if you want to implement this thing, if you want to fetch Selenium WebDriver from remote repository into our local system, you will right click on your project, click on build project. Once you will click on build project, see one more folder got added and this is called Maven dependencies. When you open this, expand it, all Selenium dependencies are added. Without downloading it on your local system and manually configuring it in your project, you can simply add this code over here. This dependency, Selenium dependency or any jar files will be added to your project. This is the benefit of Maven project. Because in framework, you might require lots of jar files. You cannot keep on just downloading and configuring it manually. So here we got Selenium. Now, what are the different dependencies we need? So dependency initially require Selenium dependency, we just added it. TestNG, Apache POI, another version, extend reports, common IOs, and log4j. I'll let you know what is the meaning of them. First, we're going to start with TestNG. So we will go to our project. Now we will be adding TestNG dependency. So we'll go to Maven repository again. This is my remote repository. Here I can write TestNG, search for it. This is your link. Again, I'm going to choose much stable version here. Choose this, Control C. So TestNG is added. Now I want to add Apache POI. Now what is Apache POI? Guys, Apache POI is again your plugin to add data from the Excel sheets. As you know that data-driven testing, we are doing the hybrid framework in which we are using feature of reading data from the Excel sheets too. If you want to perform parameterization or data-driven testing, just for the future use, I'm using Apache POI. So here again, you will go to your Maven repository, type here Apache POI, search for it, take the first link here. I'm going to use the most stable version, recent version. So I'm going to use it. Copy this. pum.xml, I'm going to paste it. Then Apache POI second version, this one, I'll show you. This one. POI OOXML, you will be using this also. Again, the stable one, we'll copy this and put it in pum.xml. There are a few more dependencies which we can add into it, but we're going to do it later when it is required. So I'm going to save this and again, check your Maven dependencies here. See, it's just Selenium. It's just showing Selenium right now. I can refresh it. Step number 1, create Maven project. And step number 2, add dependencies, that means required jar files in pum.xml file. Step number 3 is, now we will be creating a base package. If you remember, in my last video, I've told you that we will be keeping all the common commands in the base class. So for that, I'm creating a base package. So this is my next step. So here, if you see guys here, you will see few folders got created. SRC main Java, SRC main resources, SRC test Java, SRC test resources. Now, Maven projects actually by default gives you organized way of writing the code. If you look at this main Java, mostly it is for developers. So if developer wants to write any code, they use this particular path, main Java. If testers want to write, they write in SRC test Java. That is a difference in main and test Java. That's why they just named it like that. Although there is no problem, you can write stuff in main also, but still it is created or organized in such a way that even developers can write code into it and testers can also use it. For developers, it is main Java. For testers, it is test Java. These are some folders for the resources automatically created. We don't need it. So I'm deleting SRC main resources. Right click on it, delete it. We don't need this. We will be deleting SRC test resources. Although guys, it is not mandatory that you should delete it, just to organize the stuff, because I'm anyhow creating some folders inside it or some packages inside it. Unnecessarily, these extra packages can create confusion. So that's why I'm just deleting them. So now I'm deleting SRC test resources. Okay, let's open SRC main Java. So this is my main Java, this is test Java. Now what I'm going to do is, in my test Java, I will right click on it and create a package for base class. I'm just going to name it as base class, base package. Click on finish. This is my base package. In my base package, I'm going to create a class called base class. You can name it anything. I'm writing base HRM class. So I'm not going to include the main method in it. I can click on finish. So my base class is created. Now, before letting you know what we write in base class, what else we require, I'm going to show you the project on which we're going to work. So the project is, so this is a HRM project. That means human resource management. This project is actually to take care of the HR's day-to-day activities. He can assign leaves. He can add new employee. He can check his leave balance. All that stuff is managed. This is a project to manage HR activities. So in this username, I can log in with username as admin and password as admin123. This is a dummy project. If you want to perform any testing, if you want to do any testing activities, you can use this project. So here we do have admin as my username and password is admin123. So these are the modules we have. They can assign leave, leave list, check the leave list, time sheets of the employees, apply for leave, check for their own leaves, their time sheets, and there are other features over here too. Now I'm going to create framework for this. We should be able to log in. After logging in, I'll go to my info module. I'm going to check the contact details and we'll edit and add some data over there. So this is the overall picture of the project on which we're going to work. Let's see how we work on it. So first of all, we will be using a common commands over here. So what are the common commands? First of all, let's list them. So we can use, let's say, browser info, URL info. All the pages requires username and password because you need to log in and then access it. So username and password, it's going to be common data served to all fields over there. So this is a common data. But if you look at these things one by one, browser info, if I specify browser info over here, I write web driver, assign new Firefox driver, right? So I wrote this thing. Now look at this. My test cases, my base class, I have created base class saying that driver assign new Firefox driver, and I can understand that all of my classes which will be inheriting this base class will be using this Firefox driver. Okay. Now, what if I want to change the browser? Now I want to use Chrome. I would like to change the Chrome. All the code, everything I need to change in my base class, it's going to be too much work. And what if I do something wrong? If my base class fails, all the test cases will fail. That's why it's called base. Let me show it to you here. Your base class will have all common, let's say, commands, right? If I'm writing code for a particular browser, let's say Firefox driver, my test cases are dependent on Firefox only. You might be thinking, okay, then we can come here and change the Firefox to something else. Yes, we can do that. But then if you keep on changing your base class, there might be a possibility that, maybe we end up doing some mistake in it. And if your base class fails, all the classes which are inheriting it will eventually fail. Right? So we cannot take that risk of doing anything in the base class. Altering base class again and again can result into some serious complications. That's why, as a good testers, it's a very good idea to keep the things which are subjected to change in a different folder or file called configuration files. So first thing I'm going to do is I'll create a file called configuration file. I'll keep all the things which are subjected to change over here. For example, browser info. For example, URL, username, passwords. These are few things which are subjected to change, right? And if I keep these things in my base class, I have to again go and keep on changing its values, which might affect my base class. If your base class is not working, your complete framework will fail because this is the source of everything. This is parent. And all the childs are taking information from this parent. So this POM layer, page object model layer, and my test layer is working because it's taking information from base class. If my base class fails, all these classes will fail, all these layers will fail, and my entire framework will eventually fail. So that's why it's a very good idea to keep these things outside. And then whenever I want to use it, I can read it from this file. My base class will read data from this file. My base class will read all data for these parameters from this file and put it over there instead of specifying it in the base class. Now, if I want to change, I will come to the configuration file, change it over here, which will have least impact on the code of my base class. So in simple words, things which are subjected to change, we should keep it separate from the base class. We will keep the common commands in base class, but the data which is subjected to change, we will keep it separate in the configuration files. Now let's see how to create configuration files. So here, under my test Java, I will again right click, go to new, create a package, and I can name it as environment variables. We'll finish this. And under this package, we'll create a file now. So I don't see file here. You can go to other. If you see file over there, you can choose it from there. In my case, it was not visible. So I clicked on others, choose file. If still you don't see file in this section also, you can search for it. You can write file, search for it. In general, you can choose this file here. Click on next. Here we're going to give name to the file. So here I'm writing it as config.properties. This should be name of your file, although you can give anything, but the extension is .properties. And I can click on finish here. So this is the first thing you will be doing. So step number one is, so first step we're going to do is, after creating Maven project, you can create base package. Under base package, you will create a base class. In src test Java. All right. After this, you should create package for environment variables. So environment package. In that, we will create a file called config.properties. So we understood till here. Now, in my config.properties, so I'm going to write the common data here. So my common data is, first of all, browser info. So browser, let's say Firefox. URL. This is the URL we have. You can take this URL from the website. So this is the URL we have. And now we will be writing username. So username you can check from here is, it is admin and password is admin123. So I'm specifying everything over here. So username is admin and password is admin123. So this is the data which is subjected to change. It's not a good idea to keep this data in the base class, because all the time I want to change, let's say from Firefox to Chrome, or maybe the URL needs to be changed, username, password is changing. I need to go to base class and keep on changing it. So I just separated that data in my config.properties so that change should have least impact on the code of base class. So this is the first step you're going to take. Now, I want my base class to read data from my config.properties class. Then only it makes sense, because I want to read this data into the base class. I want to read data from config.properties into the base class. First thing, we will be creating object for properties class. So if we want to read properties of this file, we have to declare one variable here. We have to create object of properties files. Guys, properties class is a class whose methods you can use to read config.properties. So if you want to read content of config.properties, we will be creating object of a class called properties. And I can use its methods. So I've created this. So here I can write properties. Let's say prop assign. So here properties prop assign new properties. So I can use method of this class to read properties of config.properties. So let's import it. So import java.utility. Now I will also declare a global variable called WebDriver because you're going to use this driver variable throughout the program. So we need to declare it. Even if my child classes want to use driver, they need not to declare it again and again because I'm going to globally declare it over here. So you can write down WebDriver. That means this is a reference variable for WebDriver. So wherever you will use driver, that will refer to this WebDriver, which I've globally declared under the class. You can import it. Let me just keep drivers D capital. And now you can import it. So this is also done. So we have both properties as well as WebDriver. Now, step number 1 is we will be creating constructor of this class. So you can write public name of the class. So in my case, this is base HRM. In this constructor, I will write down the code to read properties of config.properties file. So what is the code to read property from any file? In order to do so, first of all, I'm going to use file input stream class. So this library, file input stream, I'm going to use. I will write down its reference variable, assign new file input stream, and in brackets you can pass path of the file whose properties you want to read. So this path we need to pass over here. So I'll take path of config.properties, right click on it, go to properties here, you will see path here. So you can copy this and paste. So apply and close, and you can paste it over here in inverted quotes. Okay. So this is my step number 1. So this is my step number 1. I'll terminate it with semicolon. So what I'm saying over here is that store this file over here, this file, this path, store this into the variable called file. So this is how the object will, so this is the constructor with this parameter. So the path I'm passing over here is path of config.properties file. In simple words, I have exported this file into my base class. Now I will be importing this. So import it. So add throw declaration. Instead of using add throw declaration, I'm going to use try block. Now you understand what is try catch block. If you want to handle exceptions, you can use try and catch block. So here I will write try, put this code in this curly braces. As soon as I wrote try, this thing disappear. And I want to read properties of this file now. So I will use this variable over here. So I write prop dot load. So I'll use load. And here I can pass this variable called file. See, it's automatically coming. So I wrote file here. So this is my try block, and definitely try block will accompany catch block too. So I'm writing here catch. Now, what should be the name? What could be the name of exception? Guys, why I'm doing this try catch? Because whenever we handling any file, Java knows that, there might be an option that file will not be found over there. So these are some inbuilt exceptions that what if file not found? So they just want to handle those exceptions before compiling it. That's why it's better whenever you're dealing with files, you can put that in try and catch block. So exception which I can get in this case is file not found. So not found exception. I'm just giving variable as E. And now I want to print it also. So I'm writing E dot, let's say, print stack trace. If you put our cursor over here, it's also asking you to add through declaration. And I can use another catch block also. So I can say catch input output exception a dot print stack trace. So I'm handling two exceptions here. So one is for this file, that maybe this file, if file does not exist, if file not found at this location, then please throw me the exception, because if this fails, my entire base class could fail. So that's why I'm handling that if file not found at this location, please let me know. Second, because I'm loading file over here, there might be some input output exceptions. That means maybe I'm not able to input something, maybe I'm not able to read data from it. If this type of situation is there, please throw that exception too. So these are the two things you're going to do first. As file input stream is actually a class which is used to, which have methods to read data from any file. Now, step number 2. So in my step number 2, I will create a method under which I'll keep all common commands which I'll be using for rest of the classes. All the child classes will be using those commands. So I'm keeping those commands in one of the methods in my base class. So here I can write public static. Why static? Because I want to use it in other classes also. Now there is no return type, so void, and I can name it as initiation. So that is the name I'm keeping here. And let's start with the body of the method. And now I'm creating the method. I do have extra curly braces. I can remove it. As always, make sure that your opening and closing brackets are there or not. Otherwise, your code can give you issues. So here the try block is starting here and closing here. Catch block is starting here and closing here. Another catch block is starting and closing here. And this constructor block is starting here and it is closing here. And after constructor, you will be starting with the method. So I'm creating public static void initiation. You can give any name to this. And here I will keep the common commands, guys. My first command is what you write in your code. So first thing you write in your code is driver's path. Then second thing we write over here is maximize, let's say maximize window. And then we can write down, page timeouts, page load, implicit, getting the URL, right? These are the common things we write over here. Now, let's talk about this first line over here, driver path. What is the command for this? We always write WebDriver dot, if it is gecko, then gecko, if it is chrome, then chrome.driver, then the location of the driver. After that, we write WebDriver, driver assign new, either Chrome, Firefox, IE, whatever browser you're using, that you write. But if you remember, browser information I have passed in config.properties. And according to my browser, I want to run this particular command. If it is Chrome driver, I want to write webdriver.chrome.driver. If it is Gecko driver, Firefox, then I can write webdriver.gecko.driver. So according to my browser, which is entered over there in config.properties, I want to run code over here. I don't want to make my code specific, dependent on a particular browser. If we want to do so, I can use if statement. I can write down if browser is, so I'll just tell you high level of it. Let's say if browser is Chrome, then use my code in which it is written webdriver.chrome.driver. else if browser is Firefox, then the code should be webdriver.gecko.driver, right? So according to my browser's information, my code should work. So if browser is telling me it is Chrome, show me this. Otherwise, if browser is saying Firefox, then give me this information. What is browser here? Look at this config.properties, browser. If property which you are reading from my config.properties is saying Firefox, then run this code. If browser's property in my config.properties file is saying Chrome, then you can run this code. So I'm not making my code dependent on a particular browser. I'm saying, okay, read it from my config.properties, whatever you found, accordingly run this code. How to put it in code now? Let's see that. First of all, I want to read property of browser. I want to read property of browser from config.properties into my base class. As you know, guys, if I want to read properties of my config.properties file, I will be using prop variable. So whenever you write prop dot, you can use methods to read properties of my config.properties file. But there is a catch over here. If this prop you want to use here, let's say I write prop. Look at this. It's giving me error. You know why? Put your cursor over there. It's saying change prop to static. Making this variable as static means we can use them in other classes. Also, we can use it with class name too. Scope of this will be inside this method too. So I need to make it static. So here I can write down public static. This thing also I will write public static, because WebDriver also I want to use everywhere. So that's why I'm making this also as static. Now if you write prop dot, you can use methods over here. Now method to read properties from the config.property file is, I can write down here get property. So get property. Now which property I want to read? I want to read property of a browser. So here guys, you will be writing exactly what you written over here. Same keyword. So I wrote browser in lowercase. In same case, I'm going to write here browser. So I'm saying read property of browser, because it is string. I'm going to put it in inverted quotes. The input type is string. So I'm going to put it in inverted quotes. So I'm saying get property of browser from config.properties and now store it in a variable. So I will store it in a variable called browser name. Simple. So property will be read from my config.properties. Which property? Property of browser. It will be stored in a browser name variable. Now I will write code here. I will write if browser name dot, so I'm using this equals what? If it is equal to Firefox, then use this code. What is the code I want to use here? Now I will write my main code. System dot set property. In key value, I will write WebDriver dot gecko dot driver. And here I will give location of my gecko driver. So let's say location of my gecko driver is, it is in my project. That's why I'm just writing gecko driver dot exe. Semicolon. After this, I will write down driver assign new. Now I can write Firefox driver. So this is the code I want to run if I'm using Firefox driver. Else if, so here, else if browser name dot equals, let's say Chrome. Then I want to use a different code. Then I want to use this code as, again, system.set property. I'm just picking it up from here. You can paste it here. And here, instead of Gecko, I'm writing Chrome. And here you can write location of your Chrome driver. So you can write whatever your location. If it is in C drive, D drive, you can check on your system. So you can write chrome.exe. I'm just going to close this brackets here. Now, this is my code. So now I'm not dependent on the browser. If value we are getting from config.properties is Firefox, then run this code. If value you are getting from config.properties is Chrome, then execute this code. Please make sure that this is exactly should be written in your config.properties. See Firefox. If now I want to do it with Chrome, I have to just change it over here and write down Chrome. In my base class, then this code will execute. It will pick Chrome because properties which will be read, because browser properties which will be stored in browser name will be Chrome, and the code will go to this. That browser name is Chrome, then run this section here. Here also you can write down driver, assign new Chrome driver. Put your cursor, import it. If you want to embed other browser also, again, you can use else and write down its code. So this is the way you can use it. So I'm changing it to Firefox here. All right. So let's go to base HRM again. Now I'll be writing all basic commands. So here we closed it. And here the method is closed. So before closing the method here, after my if else, you can write down all the basic commands you want to have. For example, driver dot manage dot window dot maximize. Then you can write down driver dot manage dot timeouts dot page load timeout. Let's say 30 seconds, and I want time into unit, so I can write down time unit dot seconds, and so on. Whatever you want to specify, you can specify here. And now we will be writing the URL. So driver dot, we write on get. So in get, you write down the URL, but again, URL is not in your base class. URL we have specified in config.properties. So again, I have to read it from my config.properties, and code to read anything from config.property is variable, reference variable dot get property. And which property now I want? URL in inverted quotes. This is your base class. You can keep on adding stuff according to the requirement, but this is the base class we'll have. Again, guys, one more thing I want to specify here, this timeouts. This also has tendency to change, right? If you want to change timeouts now, you will keep on changing base class again and again. If you want to keep this also as separate, you can also store this in one of the variable and use it over here. So let's say I create one package. So you can create one more package here. And the name of package, let's say, is utility. Finish it. I'm creating one class here. So new class. Here I'm writing, let's say, time utils. I will not include main method and finish it. So I created one class in utility package called time utils. I'll tell you why I'm creating it, because guys, timeouts also are subjected to change. Let's say today I want to write 30, but tomorrow I want to increase the time to 50. I cannot keep this changing data in my base class. So here also I can write it down like this. I can write down public static, let's say int time page. This is the variable I'm creating and I'm giving it time as 20. All right, this variable's value I'm specifying here is 20. So time page. Okay, now in my base class, because I've declared it as static, I can use that time here. So what I did is this time 20, 30, this time 30 is subjected to change, right? Instead of writing hard-coded value, I can write down this util class dot variable I've specified in it. So time util dot time page. Because it is static, I can use it with class name. So time utils dot time page. That means it is 20. If you want to now change the timeouts, you can just come here and change it. Same you can do for implicit wait. You can write down public static int implicit wait, and then here you can specify the time. Now, how to use it in my code? So because I made it static, I can write down time utils dot time page. So here I'm going to this and I'm writing time utils. This is my class name dot, and see, I can use time page. That's all. So here also, instead of passing hard-coded value, I can write it like this. So this is your base class. So the most difficult part is to create base class in a framework, because this is your initial setup. In our next session, we're going to understand how to create POM layer and test layer. That's all for this video. Thanks for now.